are paraphrasing someone else, and you have cited them already earlier on in the paper or in the paragraph above, right? And then you don't cite them in the paragraph below, but it's very obvious that you are drawing from the source material.
Here in the U.S., there are strong reactions over the resignation of Claudine Gay as president of Harvard University yesterday. After controversial testimony on Capitol Hill last month, she also faced claims of plagiarism allegations she strongly denies. Nicole Killian is following all of this, is in Washington. Nicole, good morning.
Hey, good morning to you, Jerika. Some Republican lawmakers, including the speaker, say this was long overdue, and Claudine Gay's sudden departure makes her the shortest-serving president in Harvard's history.
6 months into her tenure, Harvard University President Claudine Gay announced her resignation in a letter, writing, "It is in the best interest of the school so it can navigate this moment of extraordinary challenge."
This is difficult work.
Gay's resignation comes nearly a month after she and the presidents of the University of Pennsylvania and MIT faced widespread condemnation following this testimony at a House education hearing on anti-Semitism on college campuses.
The answer is yes, that calling for the genocide of Jews violates Harvard Code of Conduct, correct?
Again, it depends on the context.
Republican Chair Elise Stefanik, a Harvard alum, posted 2 down, referring to Gay and Penn President Liz McGill, who also resigned days after the hearing, which Harvard law student Jonathan Frieden attended.
There's a lot of people and a lot of Jewish students who view this as a good thing, as a victory, as a step in the right direction. And then there's a lot of us that are also asking, but what next?
Gay was the university's first black president. She was criticized by many in the Jewish community for her response to anti-Semitism on campus after the Hamas attacks in Israel. She faced more scrutiny from some donors and conservative activists following allegations of plagiarism in her dissertation and several articles, which she denied. She wrote, "It has been distressing to have doubt cast on my commitments to confronting hate and to upholding scholarly rigor, and frightening to be subjected to..."
They did it. They did it. They took her down. Now, I talked about this already. It's like she's a Zionist, right? Like, she is pro-Israel. She's so pro-Israel that she also agreed in that congressional hearing with the false narrative that anti-Zionism is anti-Semitism, right? And because of that, in my opinion, she did a really piss-poor job, just like the other 2 college presidents, in defending free speech on her campus, right? She did this, where she basically took the untenable position that implied that pro-Palestinian sentiment is akin to calling for the genocide of Jews, and that it should be allowed because this is a free speech campus. And for me, that is a really stupid way to try and argue, because you're going to look like an absolute monster, understandably, to the broader American population. As far as the accusations of plagiarism comes, they came shortly after. This is something that everybody does. They comb through their background. They comb through the background of any figure that is in the crosshairs that needs to be taken down. And they found some sussy texts and some terrible citations or lack of citations in her work. Do I think that a lot of college professors engage in this kind of thing? Absolutely. Okay? Yeah, they do. Just, I don't place a lot of emphasis on this in the same way that I guess many do. Okay? But the reason why the plagiarism stuff came out, is specifically because they were looking for anything and everything that they could attack her on. And not just her, but they wanted to look for anything and everything that they can attack DEI on. That is precisely the reason why. That's precisely the reason why the conversation specifically placed the crosshairs on Claudine Gay and not the other college presidents. Okay? There was one Twitter thread from I think he writes for The Atlantic. This writer that had a decent take on it, where he was like, don't defend the plagiarism of Claudine Gay, which, you know, I don't care about at all. It's not this one. It's not this. This is not the one I'm talking about. I did read this yesterday, though. No, and it's not this one either. Although I do agree with a lot of the takes in here as far as like how conservatives weaponize cancel culture and utilize cancel culture to their benefit by whipping up every center-left liberal into action. Okay. Where are we defending her? She's such a lib, and her response to the questioning was awful. I'm not defending her. I'm not defending her at all. Matter of fact, I can't explain to you how little I have defended her from the jump. Okay? Is anyone in here Ivy League alumni? Is Harvard respected at all? Yes, Harvard is like the top institution historically in the United States of America. What are we talking about? That's just the truth. No, it's not Adam Johnson either. It's a dude that he's a black writer who regularly talks about like campus culture himself, and he's a bit of a centrist. Chris Rufo himself actually replied to the guy too. Hold on, I'll find it through Chris Rufo's reprise, being like, "What's racist about it? I don't get it." Hold on, I'll find it. Hold on. I love that Politico went to the guy who basically started this thing and very openly said he was going to weaponize it and laid his plan out. And now, you know, Politico is like giving him the credit. Hold on. Where is it? I can't find this. The funniest part about Chris Rufo is that he is ultimately he is not like this brilliant tactician at all. He's not even remotely this brilliant tactician. It's just that the American media apparatus is so perfectly conditioned into leaning on any kind of reactionary sentiment. Not Jonathan Chait either. Where is it? I can't find the fucking tweet. God damn it. How long ago was it? This motherfucker does not stop tweeting. Oh my Lord. Oh my Lord. He is just constantly tweeting. Tweeting up a goddamn storm, dude. I mean, he's just flexing. No, it's not this. It's not Thrasher. Oh. Can't find it now. God damn it. I wonder if he deleted his reply or something to the guy originally. It's not. It's like a Zaid Jilani type dude who has written about college campuses before. Oh, I think you found it. I think this is it. Wait, let me see. Yep. Thank you. Just a girl L. You win. That is the one I was talking about. So Tyler Austin Harper is a writer, assistant professor at Bates College, and he has like I mean, he has some interesting takes. Oh, wow. I was just at it, too. I was just at the fucking thread. Anyway, he talks about college campus, DEI, stuff like that. Interesting guy, interesting perspective. So here's what his take was. I think there are obviously plenty of different opinions that I've read here on this broadcast that are overwhelmingly in support of Claudine Gay and whatnot. But then also there are some other opinions that I wanted to show you. Now, this is what I agree with 100% wholeheartedly. Articles about Claudine Gay and her various scandals were top 5 featured stories on the New York Times homepage on December 7th, 8th, 9th, 10th, 11th, 12th, 13th, 14th, 17th, 22nd, 25th, and her firing is now their top story. There is simply no way this is proportionate, sober, or reasonable coverage. Adam Johnson is absolutely correct. It is not. It is not proportionate, sober, or normal coverage. It's not reasonable at all. Because it's a very good, cool, fun story to focus on because, one, New York Times is, the New York Times readers care about it. Okay? But it's also a very good way to just, stop talking about Israel's genocide. Now, right-wingers have always weaponized cancel culture against people that they consider to be enemies, right? They do it very openly. What is it? I'm not 100% sure on this, but I saw a good amount of academics online saying that she didn't actually plagiarize. Apparently, plagiarism software flags repetition of phrases, which almost everyone does in their writing, not that it matters ultimately. No, there are certain parts of her writing that looks to have ripped direct quotation. Some of it is not, some of it is improperly cited. Some of it is regular legal boilerplate. Those things are not plagiarism. Some of them do borderline on plagiarism, however. Now, of course, the standard of such plagiarism, or what this implies is being talked about without the actual minutia, without the actual details of said plagiarism, right? It's more so just, excuse me, there's 47 acts of plagiarism here. How are you going to defend plagiarism? Why are you defending plagiarism? The conversation just immediately moves in a very bad faith way to directly saying, oh, you're defending plagiarism. Okay? Now, here's what I think is really interesting, right? Claudine Gay discourse is going to make my head explode. Were the original attacks on her, which predated the plagiarism, motivated by racism? Yes, obviously. Did she plagiarize? Yes, also obviously. Stop debasing yourself with Orwellian talk of academic sloppiness. Nothing is stopping Harvard from hiring another black woman. Academics would be better off spending their time mounting a pressure campaign demanding Harvard install another POC president. Stop insisting we all consent to a collective delusion that plagiarism isn't plagiarism. There are unattributed, duplicated paragraphs. What the fuck do you think plagiarism is? Is she the worst offender? No. Are there plenty of professors, many of them famous and white, getting away with worse? Yes. You can quibble with her firing, but don't ask me to believe 2 + 2 = 5. Okay? Black academics do amazing work every day. We don't need you to move the plagiarism goalposts or invent bullshit ideas like academic sloppiness. The right's early witch hunt against Gay was racist, but the progressive response is also racist. It assumes we need lower standards. To which Chris Rufo replied, what do you mean it's racist? What's racist about it? And I think this part was really good. Hold on. Wait, where is it? Didn't Christopher Rufo reply to this? Why can't I see it? Wait. Let's pull that up too. I can't find it now. God damn it. Weren't some of the samples cut off to erase the citation at the beginning of the quote? Yes. 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 That absolutely does happen. They do it all the time. Here's the thing. I'm telling you right now. It's because there is no real genuine crime here or like they're padding conservatives do this thing, and everyone basically does this. Liberals do it too. Like people who are engaging in, I guess, quote unquote, cancel culture will do this thing where they will mine for anything that is a valid critique, right? Because everyone kind of understands you can't really cancel someone that is your ideological opponent. Conservatives can't cancel someone like myself. Only the left can cancel someone like myself, which is why, like, one of the things that plays a really decent role in pushing people away from listening to what I have to say is usually not done necessarily by like the likes of Ben Shapiro or whatever, but it's done by people who consider themselves to be progressive or have portrayed themselves to be progressive when they're not actually progressive at all, right? One thing that the left also does regularly, for example, is, and this is something that everybody does, is quote mining, finding something that you've said, finding something that you may not have actually intended, and then pummeling it over and over and over again until people from your ideological side are forced to respond, right? And because everyone wants to be morally above this sort of thing, and they don't want to come across like they're biased, they will say, oh, yeah, no, that guy's bad. It's wrong. I apologize. This is the worst thing that's ever happened. Meanwhile, all of this is done completely cynically. Okay? Anyway, Christopher Rufo said, huh? What attacks were motivated by racism? If we're doing racism tabulation here, Claudine Gay is by far the most guilty. Explicit racism against whites and Asians, a flagrantly discriminatory DEI bureaucracy, and minimization of anti-Semitism on campus. Nobody cares that she's black. They care that she's a bad leader and an academic fraud. That's what Christopher Rufo said, right? Who, by the way, also is simultaneously openly gloating that this is bullshit. Okay? Tyler Austin Harper correctly pointed out and said, after the hearing, the right media ecosphere immediately became laser-focused on Gay. Her testimony, while not great, was a mile the best of the three, and she gave the same answer to a question about calls for genocide against blacks. Okay? But it doesn't end there. Yet, Gay, the diversity hire, immediately became the story, even though, again, the other two presidents were far more incompetent. So that's the thing. Okay? Every single person immediately, even before they found plagiarism, right, or how much plagiarism was found in her work is, of course, in question, they immediately said, oh, she's incompetent, she's bad, she's only there because she's black, she's a woman, and that's the only reason why they put her as the president, right? Her level of incompetence, as far as like her dissertations or as far as her writing goes, is straight up, and I will say this, okay, across the board, almost identical to like the average academic. Okay? It is. You think these guys didn't have Turnitin, you know, or some kind of Turnitin style structure when she was writing these dissertations? Like, no, they did. They were looking at that stuff back then too. Okay? It's not like plagiarism became an important facet of the college experience and how dissertations are analyzed, right? It's a thing that has existed for a while. Okay, maybe not Turnitin, but they certainly looked at it, and the people that looked at it saw that it met academic muster. Okay? So the idea that like she basically got away with like plagiarizing all this academic material, and it's somehow way worse than her contemporaries is ridiculous. It's just not, it's just ridiculous. It's so commonplace that there are Supreme Court justices of the United States that have engaged in similar acts, or even worse. Okay? Now, having said that, they immediately went, nah, she sucks, she's stupid, she doesn't deserve to be in that position. And if the standards for said position are set by other college campus professors, deans, you know, if the standard is applied evenly, then yeah, she clearly does deserve to be there. Okay? From my perspective, from where I stand at least, like, there are valid criticisms of her writing as far as I've seen. I mentioned this yesterday as well. And then there's a whole lot of padding of the deck happening. 47 acts of plagiarism in comparison to like a litany of like improper citations, or even things that are clipped specifically to make it seem like this is not a quote or a paraphrasing of someone else's work, but instead directly someone else's work, but directly plagiarizing it, right? But this part is 100% correct. After the hearing, the right media ecosphere immediately became laser focused on Gay. Her testimony, while not great, was a mile best. Yet Gay, the diversity hire, immediately became the story, even though, again, the other two presidents were far more incompetent. As for Gay's overseeing of DEI, etc., we agree anti-racism is racism by another name, and I have no interest in defending it. I've also been clear, like, this guy's anti-DEI. Okay? That I think that there's an actual problem with and connection between DEI discourse and anti-Semitism, so not going to suggest otherwise, but I absolutely think a lot of people on the right were very keen to immediately demonize Gay out of the three presidents. DEI, for those of you who don't know, is diversity, equity, and inclusion, right? Or inclusivity, is that what it is? And the DEI discourse is so silly. It's just like more academic. Yeah, diversity, equity, inclusion. It is something that I guess the right hates. Okay? Its implementation is not great usually, but it doesn't matter. It's like affirmative action. Okay? It's like barely tackling a systemic wrong that has never been adequately addressed. And that's it. Good idea in principle. It's been neoliberalized and commoditized. And that's it. I think that it's yet another thing that conservatives yell about that is ultimately inconsequential. Okay? I don't buy the argument that anti-racism is raised by another name. Yes, I don't buy that argument either. I think it's a reactionary position. So, overall, this was a classic case of quote mining and witch hunting, where the best versions of this, okay, feature just a crumb of truth, especially if you can nail someone you want to take down on an issue that your opposition actually finds to be problematic or embarrassing, right? Because if you yell at me all day, every day about how, like, and some people do this, how I've laughed at a cop shooting another cop while it was trying to shoot a dog, and how I find humor in that situation because why the fuck is the cop shooting a dog to begin with? Many leftists and progressives are not going to look at that and go, yeah, you're right, Hasan, that's really messed up. When you go, Hasan said America deserved 9/11, many leftists are not going to look at that and go, oh, that's really messed up. But when you say Hasan went to a brothel in 2010, and that's why he isn't simply just a sex work advocate, but also he's a bad guy, he's a rapist or whatever, then there are plenty of leftists who also have similar reactionary views on sex and sex work in general that will go, yeah, you're right, he is a bad guy. Okay? You get it? You're supposed to look for something that the opposing side, the side that you're trying to take down, also would be in disagreement with. Okay? That's it. Or the whole Hasan House discourse. That's the way that you can actually cancel someone. Not the other ways. But ultimately, I don't think Chris Rufo is a mastermind at all. He just simply is lucky enough to be a reactionary conservative. Calling Christopher Rufo a mastermind of this sort is akin to calling Henry Kissinger a mastermind. Henry Kissinger only works because he's Henry Kissinger for the United States of America. Okay? The Henry Kissinger of Zimbabwe goes to prison. The Henry Kissinger of America is hailed as a mastermind of diplomacy. You can only do this and openly explain your motivations simultaneously while doing it and whip up the media into a frenzy if you are a reactionary conservative working at the Manhattan Institute. That's it. That's it. Yeah, but Henry Kissinger actually got his agenda accomplished, as horrific as it is. Hasn't Rufo's astroturfing stuff completely tanked Republicans in a lot of places? Yes. Which is also another reason why I'm saying that he's not a mastermind at all. Okay? But the fact that there's a Q&A in Politico magazine, we sat down with the conservative mastermind behind Claudine Gay's ouster. Christopher Rufo explains the motivations behind his latest crusade to topple the Harvard president, is awful. I hate how right-wing the American media is. I hate how reactionary the American media is. I called this from a mile away. I tweeted about this a couple days prior to Claudine Gay resigning. Okay? Christopher Rufo is not a mastermind. He's doing the same exact thing that liberals and leftists sometimes do on Twitter, which doesn't really work on the Republican side because they're shameless and biased. He's doing the same exact thing that conservatives before him have done. He's doing the same exact thing that conservatives still do to this day, to both myself and others. If Christopher Rufo is a mastermind, everyone's Facebook posting alcoholic uncle is also a mastermind. Yes. Here, hold on. Christopher Rufo being considered a mastermind for being able to do a cancel culture thing where, like, New York Times and all these other liberal outlets that are so horny to move the attention away from something else, move the attention away from Gaza. Okay, and they're so desperate to engage in this crusade. It's like saying I'm a mastermind for my top of the hour ad breaks. Okay, it's 2 p.m. You know I'm gonna do it. You saw it from a mile away. It's not necessarily me being a mastermind at all. Where is my tweet? I can't even find it. Oh my God. Was it that long ago? Was it like a month ago? What the hell is going on? But yeah, at the top of the hour, there is a 3-minute ad break. If you no longer want to see those ads, all you need to do is subscribe for $5 or for free with Twitch Prime by connecting your Amazon Prime account to your Twitch account, where you get 1 free Prime subscription a month. Use it on your favorite broadcaster. Hopefully that's me. Here's the 3-minute ad break now. Where the hell? Oh, here. This is December 19th. Osita brings up Christopher Rufo's take. We launched a Claudine Gay plagiarism story from the right. The next step is to smuggle it into the media apparatus of the left, legitimizing the narrative to center-left actors who have the power to topple her. Then squeeze. He's just laying out how it works, exactly the path many campus stories have taken. Said at a certain point, I hope the media will stop playing into the campus hysteria stories that are always concocted by cynical reactionaries, but of course they'll never stop. That's it. They openly say it. And it's not like, look, I'm not a smart guy, okay? Cope and seethe HasanAbi. Nice. I'm not a particularly intelligent person, I don't think. But if I can see it from a mile away, coming from a mile away, I'm pretty sure there are enough editors at the New York Times that have gone to much better schools and are much more intelligent than myself. They can see it too. They're just doing it as willing participants. Still winds me up when right-wing media types get called genius manipulators for passing a complaint media, the exact story sort of slop they love, like getting called a genius for getting a dog to chase a stick. Yeah, compliant media is not complaint. Sorry. Okay, that's it. It's like you don't consider you don't consider K-pop Twitter to be genius and brilliant, right? They do this kind of stuff all the time too. It's just so stupid. And the media is not falling for the bait because they're so bad and so stupid. The media is doing it deliberately because they also like grinding that axe. They know that it personally benefits them. It gets a lot of clicks, it gets a lot of attention, and also it aligns with them ideologically. That's it. And part of the reason why it works so well is, and I will read this thread now because this is actually a perfect, much better written analysis on the subject than I have, in my opinion, I have brought forward. It's because there is a certain pattern and dynamic that has replicated itself over and over again as long as I've followed U.S. media and politics, says David Roberts. I have given up hope that describing such patterns will do anything to diminish their frequency, but like I said, compulsions. The center-left pundit approach to these things is simply to accept the frame that the right has established and dutifully make judgments within it. I screamed about this yesterday. When I first read this on my Twitter timeline, I thought, is this guy a follower of mine? What the hell is going on? He's repeating identically what I said yesterday, was screaming about how right-wing, cynical reactionaries always shape the narrative. And supposedly center-left liberals love acting like they are morally above biases and end up engaging with the discourse as though it is serious. It is never serious. It is never legitimate. Okay? In this case, they focus tightly on the question of whether particular instances qualify as plagiarism as described in the rules. Inevitably, this is done with a certain air of self-congratulation. Look at me. I'm making a tough call that goes against my side. Okay? I'm so judicious, nonpartisan, and independent. And all the other center-left pundits nod soberly, noting, more in sorrow than anger, how lamentable it is that all the left partisans out there lack this protean ability, rise above it all, and see clearly and apply standards equally to all sides. And the part that really chaps my ass, they refuse almost as though it's a matter of principle to ask the larger questions. Why are we talking about this? Is there any reasonable political or journalistic justification for this being the center of U.S. discourse for weeks on end? Who has pushed this to the fore and why? And what are they trying to achieve? It is as though these questions are evasions or cheats or something, as though intellectual integrity demands only heeding those questions as the right has put into the frame. It is kind of bizarre. Proud naivete, gormlessness posing as wisdom. Okay? You see supposed center-left liberals regularly engaging in this kind of discourse. You see it play itself out within the Democratic Party and how they operate whenever they say, we need a strong Republican Party. or we need to find bipartisan solutions to problems. Republicans never look for bipartisan solutions. They do not care. They lie, cheat, and steal their way into enacting their agenda. No matter how undemocratic said agenda might be, no matter what the impact of said policies might be, and usually it's very negative. Liberals, on the other hand, are constantly pointing to this like superior center that they are always arriving at because they're the smart guys in the room. But ultimately, they're not the smart guys in the room. They're suckers. Okay? Well, some of them are suckers. Others are just also right-wing, but masquerading as liberals and open-minded progressives, dare I say. But the suckers are so easily duped and manipulated. Some of you are suckers in that similar sort because there are plenty of you in here that also got whipped up into a frenzy from the transports dynamic that I've discussed time and time again. Transports. The one girl in Kansas that's 14 years old that's participating in the swim meets cannot do that. That's the worst thing that has been allowed in the United States of America. We must put an end to it right now. What about the fairness of sports, Hasan? Does it not bother you that they're cheating? Think about the T levels. As though anybody cares. How come this trans girl got 11th place at the swim meet in Kansas? You better put an end to that right now. This is not fair to women, they say. The real goal is to conduct transphobic narratives. Okay? That's what it is. The real goal is to speardick transphobia into the mainframe. Hold on. The real goal is to make it more permissible to be transphobic, is to allow even those who are maybe a little bit transphobic, right, because many are, on the liberal side, to also start conducting themselves in a way that aligns with reactionary values. Republicans are very good at that. They're very good at selling their perspectives. They're dangerous, stupid, oftentimes harmful perspectives. That's precisely the reason why their anti-abortion crusade is not marketed as religious zealotry, right? Or they don't call it the, remove women's bodily autonomy movement, even though that is ultimately their goal. They call it pro-life. Okay? And then they turn around and they say their enemies are actually pro-murder. Liberals, on the other hand, who are so desperate to at least position themselves as optically centrist and unbiased, routinely get owned in this phenomena. When liberals come up, or at least see a radical movement that is built on the ground, that is grassroots, like Black Lives Matter, and then they see the other side and the reactionary forces hit that and say, Black Lives Matter means you want to kill cops. Black Lives Matter means you want to kill white people. What about all lives matter? Liberals get caught in this conundrum all the time. And they look at these unserious, cynical, reactionary actors and they go, you know what, you're right, all lives do matter. Why don't we optically change the Black Lives Matter slogan? Now, of course, we're living in a post-Trump universe, so Black Lives Matter became an anti-Trump phenomena that liberals were on board with. But while Black Lives Matter started under the Barack Obama administration, liberals back then were also not necessarily pro-BLM. The same problem you see every day with the river to the sea. The river to the sea is genocide of the Jews, they say. It must mean that. That's exactly what it means. And then liberals, what do? They go, guys, why don't you change this slogan that you've been using since 1964? Because the false framing that is being applied in this situation is making your position optically bad. Why don't you change it? Why don't you capitulate? Why do you not capitulate to the right-wing framing on this issue? It's hurting people's feelings. As though if you were to say, well, the occupied Palestinian territories will be free one day, as a matter of fact, even though they've been occupied since 1967, and Palestinians will be able to live freely with autonomy, is not as good as a slogan. Even if that was your slogan, do you think that the right-wing reactionary elements would not turn around and say free Palestine means genocide of the Jews? They say that too. Okay? That's it. That's it. Sloganeering only works if you have a media apparatus that is willing and able to defend it and consistently explain what the slogan means. Okay? That's it. And liberal media never will do that because they are materially positioned against actual, genuine, radical, progressive change. Okay? That's it. So look beyond the slogans whenever someone tries to bring up the optics conversation. You get it? Why are you not? What? Opinions on AO3 bring down. Any thoughts on the recent cyber attack? Why are you not talking about the downing that happened? If they didn't treat shit like branding, advertising, gang, and just refuse right-wing framing en masse, there wouldn't be a problem. Yes. AO3 is the fanfic website. What? I don't know what that is. You think I go to a fanfic website? What are you, crazy? See, that New York Times comes now to the final stage. Getting Claudine Gay to write another article. This drives a lot of clicks, guys. A lot of clicks. A lot of advertising dollary dues for the New York Times. For the record, it hasn't ended. There's still blood in the water. People still want to pounce. ABC News writes, former Harvard professor Claudine Gay will remain a professor, likely keep nearly $900,000 salary after resigning. Bill Ackman is now talking about taking down those in the board that also defended Claudine Gay. Okay? So just remember, these guys work alongside. They pick and choose who their targets are. They use their targets specifically. They use their targets to specifically attack larger, broader ideas. And the right-wing media, mainstream media, legacy publishers, go along with it because they are also either A, ideologically aligned with the reactionaries, or B, want to present themselves as unbiased. So while I, on the one hand, don't care much about Claudine Gay, I do hate that a bunch of fucking billionaires can get together and decide. What? Call me off stream? The hell? Huh? Yeah, YouTube censored me, says, yeah, Harvard hates Jews and Asians. Yeah, totally. Anyway. Totally, my friend. Yeah, you're right. So, point is this. Point is this. The fact that Claudine Gay did not get fired for being a bad president in general, or not dealing with or not defending, in my opinion, pro-Palestinian protesters sufficiently. She took the position of claiming that, yes, anti-Zionism is anti-Semitism, which is not correct, okay, which is incorrect position, and then was forced to agree with the notion that pro-Palestinian protests are actually calling for the genocide of Jews and that that should be permissible on college campuses. Contextually, it could be appropriate on college campuses. You don't have to say that because that's not what anti-Zionism is. And then for people to use that, for, you know, wealthy-ass dipshits to be able to use that to bully the most famous, most significant institute of higher learning like this, to take action and then continue to take action as well, is genuinely awful.
President Claudine Gay, it's the biggest assault on academic freedom in our history. It is unthinkable that a president of a university would be overthrown by big money. You know what Balzac famously said, the novelist, behind every great fortune is a crime. So this billionaire criminal class, if they can determine the president, they can determine every facet of university life. And I've talked to many student organizations, including at U of P and at Harvard, and I've said, your first demand when school resumes, McGill has to be restored. And that should be the first demand at Harvard. Claudine Gay has to be restored. If you don't restore her, you've set a ghastly precedent. You will be the alumni of a generation of students that allowed for the end of academic freedom. What happened to President Claudine Gay, it's the biggest.
Here's a man who knows a lot about being blacklisted and having his academic freedom being restricted, you know? It's not necessarily just that she also gave someone like Elisa Stefanik. They'll just say it's academic freedom to plagiarize, question mark, question mark, question mark. Exactly. Exactly. The best kind of counter, right? The best kind of counter argument that you can launch is when you actually do have some level of truth to the argument. And usually, you very quickly and very cleverly shift the boundaries of the argument to plagiarism and not like something that is, I guess, a matter of defending free speech on campuses, which conservatives are supposed to be on board with, right? Like, she's not fired from Harvard. She's still a professor. So I guess in terms of like her academic work, it meets the standards of Harvard in general, but she's no longer the president. Does that make sense? So I see a lot of people just going, oh, well, classic. Classic. People just love, I mean, this is the type of thing that would get, this is the type of thing that would absolutely get you destroyed as a student at Harvard. So why won't they follow the same metrics as the president? And it's like, no, you just want to come across like you're smart. Like you want to come across like you have, you have no biases and that you're somehow above it all. But the only thing you are is a dupe. You got suckered. You're a mark. You're a rube. You got suckered by some of the dumbest, most reactionary idiots you've ever seen, you've ever encountered. That's it. I mean, yeah, the most serial plagiarizer is Joseph Robinette Brandon. Neil Gorsuch is another academic. There are like Stanford, the president of Stanford, I think like directly falsified data, which is like the one thing you cannot do under any circumstances. Okay? This is very commonplace in academia. It doesn't make it right, doesn't make it just, doesn't make it all right. Just that it is the standard. Okay? Anyway, my inbox has been flooded with invective, including death threats. I've been called the N-word more times than I care to count. My hope is that by stepping down, I will deny demagogues the opportunity to further weaponize my presidency in their campaign to undermine the ideals animating Harvard since its founding: excellence, openness, independence, truth, and war crimes. Yes, I made mistakes. My initial response to the atrocity of October 7, I should have stated more forcefully what all people of good conscience know. Hamas, a terrorist organization that seeks to eradicate the Jewish state. Fuck you. Fuck you. I'm so glad you got fucking dumped, you dumb ass. You stupid fuck. Fuck you. Okay? Yeah, Hamas's goals are to eradicate all Jews and blah, 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 blah. Shut the fuck up. Yeah, you're right, dude. I'm not going to read this filth, okay? Yeah, get fucked. Get fucking fucked. Dumbass. Pathetic. Yeah, have fun with your $900,000 salary. I hope that take that away from you, too. God, good fucking riddance. I can't read that shit. I'm sorry. I'm cursing.
Hello, everyone. I'm Dana Perino, along with Judge Janine Pirro, Jessica Tarlov, Jesse Waters, and Greg Gutfeld. It's 5 o'clock in New York City, and this is The Five. Embattled Harvard president Claudine Gay resigning as the leader of the most powerful Ivy League school in the country. It took both her disastrous anti-Semitism testimony before Congress and 50 allegations of plagiarism to end the shortest presidency in the university's history, just 6 months. Gay not mentioning either of those scandals in a statement, but seems to imply that racism was a factor in her ouster. She said it was, quote, frightening to be subjected to personal attacks and threats fueled by racial animus. Gay's downfall started when she could not answer this question in front of Congress.
Conservatives love being like racial animus. What do you mean? You plagiarized. That's not racist. It's like, then why were you calling her an unqualified affirmative action recipient before you found out that there was any plagiarism allegations even launched towards her? You know what I mean? Yeah. You didn't need any evidence at all. And the evidence you have is also lackluster, especially when you compare it to like whatever the standards are across the board. And it's just like she's still doing the same thing. Like she got fired or she was forced to resign because she wasn't sufficiently pro-Israel, okay? And it's not even her fault, really. What is she supposed to do? She put an anti-Semitism task force together that did not feature any Harvard scholars on anti-Semitism or genocide, mind you. Right? She did not handle the questions well at all. But ultimately, she is in agreement with the likes of Elise Stefanik and everybody else that pro-Palestinian sentiment is unironically, genociding Jewish people. That's what she believes. It's awesome. I wonder if famed Harvard plagiarist Alan Dersh has anything to say. Yeah. Probably, I'm sure, maybe not.
So the answer is yes, that calling for the genocide of Jews violates Harvard Code of Conduct, correct?
It depends on the context.
This is one of my favorite old school copy pastas. The how can anybody like this guy? He has no talent at all. He's a cushy political commentator job through nepotism and got his cushy Twitch job through his genes and his looks. He still thinks he can preach about inequality. LMFAO. That's a old copy pasta. I don't know how you found that in the depths of hell.
Context.
It does not depend on the context. The answer is yes, and this is why you should resign.
Ooh. Congresswoman Elise Stefanik says Gay stepping down is only the beginning.
we have seen a failure of leadership from Claudine Gay, a failure of moral leadership, but also a failure of academic integrity, which is a cornerstone of any higher education institution. I believe, as we continue our congressional investigation, that we will uncover what will be the greatest scandal in higher education, because the Harvard Corporation members themselves are complicit in this cover-up of her plagiarism, and again, most importantly, their failure to protect Jewish students on campus.
No word yet from former President Barack Obama.
By the way, this isn't just about this is not just about Israel at this point. It's also about DEI. Like, because conservatives, yeah, sure, like they're pro-Israel and whatever, but like so is everyone, right? But they hate DEI. And what DEI represents, which is black people in positions of power and brown people in positions of power. Because those people did not earn their positions of power. They were simply handed that position of power by virtue of being black or brown. That is the principle. Or by being a woman, right? That's like what conservatives believe. So they're using this as a wonderful opportunity to attack diversity by claiming everyone is a diversity hire. But because the entire field is riddled with, you know, rampant plagiarizers and whatnot, if you attack only the black people in positions of power and none of the white people in positions of power in the halls of intelligentsia, you know, it's a target-rich environment.
Obama, who privately lobbied on Harvard President Claudine Gay's behalf during the anti-Semitism controversy. But we are hearing from the Reverend Al Sharpton. He said this: "This is an attack on every black woman in this country who's put a crack in the glass ceiling. It's an assault on the health, strength, and future of diversity, equity, and inclusion at a time when corporate America is trying to back out of billions of dollars in commitments." Despite resigning as president, Gay is still on the payroll as a faculty member. She just doesn't have to do the president's job anymore. So many different angles here. One thing, Greg, we should point out, I think, is that the Washington Free Beacon was the one who was pointing out all of this plagiarism based on old shoe leather reporting that was available to any other media outlet. The Washington Post could have done it, but it was the Washington Free Beacon who really...
That's what's so funny about her. I mean, it's not a surprise that she claims racism, that she's a victim of racism for losing her job after this moral implosion at the hearing, and then this countless examples of plagiarism, and some made by black scholars. And yet it's still racism. No, Mrs. Gay or Ms. Gay, it wasn't racism that cost you the job. It was racism that got you the job, right? Any white person had her pedigree, they wouldn't be running a school of fish.
What?
And this is the problem with...
Come on, dog. I mean, come on. Have you been to college? Like, are you stupid? I mean, you are stupid. And, of course, these guys are, like, anti-higher education in general. So I don't know why they care about the institutions and their and the optics of these institutes of higher learning. But, like, no, that's not true at all. It's like pretty much everyone in position of power in colleges, okay? Get out of here.
With DEI and ESG is that everything that it infects, it destroys, whether it's academia, corporations, the military. If you designate a small group out of a larger general population as the preferred hire, you force every recruiter to go to that select group, and the supply cannot meet the demand. It's a math problem. So you end up being forced to hire what's left. Even if that person is not qualified or even competent, it's mathematical racism. And you choose an inept candidate over somebody else who's far better because they don't fit the right color. That choice, however, makes it harder for places like Harvard and any company to fire somebody, even if they are ripe for firing. And you know, it's funny, it really isn't Gay's fault because the system awarded her into a slot that was beyond her current capabilities because of her skin color.
What are you talking about? The whole point of a college president is just to, like, suck up to investors, dude. The endowments of Harvard is like, Harvard is a hedge fund. That's it. That's what a president does. Shut up. The idea that they're like, they need to be this like brilliant, profoundly intelligent person that's supposed to be the president of Harvard is like ridiculous. It's not a thing. That's it. The qualifications of becoming a Harvard president.
Color. And if you make a deal with the DEI devil, you're going to die with the accusation of racism. So everybody made this bed. I love the fact that they all have to sleep in it.
Watch this take from...
Ironic because, many of the college presidents are ones with business backgrounds now, or more and more college presidents are hired as directly from business because they are a business. College is a business.
Matt Egan, he was on CNN.
We should note that Claudine Gay has not been accused of stealing anyone's ideas in any of her writings. She's been accused of sort of more like copying other people's writings without attribution. So it's been more sloppy attribution than stealing anyone's ideas.
Judge, what is the definition of plagiarism?
I have to close my mouth before I can answer that, Dana. Plagiarism is actually that. It's the taking of other people's ideas and words. The amazing part of this is that...
No, that's so stupid. No, there's a difference between improper citations and deliberately taking someone else's ideas without credit, or taking someone else's statements without credit and playing it off as it's your own. For example, if you are paraphrasing someone else and you have cited them already earlier on in the paper or in the paragraph above, right? And then you don't cite them in the paragraph below, but it's very obvious that you are drawing from the source material, that's less severe than plagiarism. Now, Turnitin will consider that plagiarism, which, by the way, I don't even know if you guys use Turnitin anymore. That's when I was in college. Okay, that technically raises a red flag, but that doesn't mean it's plagiarism. It's an easily fixable issue. You not have to attribute to malice what you can easily attribute to negligence. One time I fucked up formatting on the APA citation, and my professor warned me that could technically be considered plagiarism. That's what I mean.
That there are 50 credible allegations of plagiarism. And when you look back into the history of Claudine Gay, you realize the woman has never even published a book. She has written nothing that has any seminal contributions to her field, according to people who've looked at her, Brett Stevens in particular. In 26 years, she's written 11 articles. I mean, it's incredible. But what the problem is here is that she was held to a different standard than other students at Harvard. And there was an article that was written, a letter to the editor of the Crimson, the newspaper at Harvard. And a person who was responsible for, quote, upholding the standards of academic excellence said it would be the worst day when a kid at Harvard had to come before our committee. That person would cry, they might be suspended, they would have a tarnish on their record, and yet she's got 50 of them. And what did they do? They relegated her to, you know.
That's how you know. It's like 50 of them is nonsense. It's nonsense. You said 50 of them because you do not care about what aspects of these are valid, what aspects of criticisms are valid and what's not valid. They just pad the stats as hard as they can and hope that no one is interested enough to see it. The truth, that's it.
This system at this level where as president, she wasn't touched. And I think that her race has advantaged her. And the fact that she has in no way been held to account for not protecting others is the ultimate hypocrisy. When you see in her statement when she's leaving, she says, "It is so frightening to find myself the target of threats." Well, if you had any intelligence, you would understand that the reason you are where you are is because you didn't protect others who were the targets of real threats. And finally, we should realize that Harvard was started in 1698 as a divinity school, and that there...
I'm going to be honest with you. President Gay deserves all this. I'm happy that she's getting the smoke. Okay? Straight up. I don't care. Dude, have a little bit of a backbone. Have a little bit of a goddamn backbone. If she wasn't as owned, like on the one hand, I get very frustrated because I know this is like a classic example of the right utilizing legacy publishers to attack a black woman on, you know, very obviously white supremacist standards. Like, oh, she's a black woman and she doesn't know what the fuck she's talking about. She didn't deserve this job. This is something that every person of color sees and receives in their lifespan. Every woman sees this to a certain degree due to misogyny. Claudine Gay is both black and a woman, so that's the double Monty, right? Having said that, however, while the attacks against her are shaped in many ways by, I guess, misogynoir, what is very frustrating, what's very frustrating to me is her relentless defense. Her relentless defense of Israel. And the fact that she is like in agreement with those who sought out her cancellation, like Bill Ackman, because they considered her, despite being a Zionist, they considered her to not be sufficiently pro-Israel. And I think it's intellectually dishonest and it's morally bankrupt to not defend the, on principle, anti-Zionism being totally separate from anti-Semitism.